All right. What's going on?
Not much, mate, yourself?
Not much, mate. Not much. This is a bit of a throwback for me. You got less hair than me.
Well, I've never had it, so I'm all right.
Yeah, true. I can't quite grow that beard, mate. You've got a full upside down head going on. It looks class.
100%. 100%. I never
Well,
had
that's what-
nothing up here, so I went with this one and see what happens.
To be fair, that's true, innit? You always had like a little buzz cut every time. What are you working at during the day?
Yeah, so we're full time with the women's team. So we have a staff meeting in the morning, which I've been in, and then I've been planning and prepping for the week before normally go up Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday. But obviously, there's no point in me going. I live 2 hours away as well, 2 and a bit hours away from. I'm still in Southampton. There's no point in me going up for a recovery day when they're doing 45 minutes. I let my staff do that and things. So and then do bits from home. So it's that's where we're sort of at. And obviously, we play Sundays. So it depends on what's needed. I have a staff house up there as well. So I might go up tonight and stay over because I might have to do something a little bit earlier tomorrow. So I'll just pick and choose when I go and when I'm back with the family and stuff.
That's handy, isn't it? I mean, it's good that we're having this conversation, I suppose. Maybe it can bring light to it. But the fact that you're in the National League and you're full time, is great, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we probably got players that are probably seen a bit more as a hybrid because some of them still do work as well. But we do have some that are full time pro. We house 11 players. And stuff. So when we would come down as Coventry, we'd go into it. But we wanted to keep that the same. But it's full time for staff and full time. You have to be really if you want to get out of it. You got to, and it's the way it's moving.
Welcome to the Crossing the Pond podcast, hosted by me, Gary Adair, where each week our guests will recount their own experiences of resilience and transformation. Whether it's moving to a new country, tackling health challenges, changing careers, or breaking through personal barriers. My guest this week took a stop in the US in 2004 as part of his early coaching pathway before returning home to the UK to continue his career in football. Lee Burch has since gone on to coach and manage in every division of the women's professional game in the UK, up to his current role as the manager of Rugby Borough. We talk about the ups and downs of his journey to this point, the experiences in the different clubs along the way, his personal success and triumphs, and more importantly, the positive growth he has seen in the women's game during his 10-year career in the league. When you came, it was 2004 you came to the US, I think.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Something like that, right? Was that because we were all dead young? I mean, I know you were on the younger end anyway at that point.
I'm 20.
So was that a plan? Was that just a sort of, let's see what happens?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a case of just like there wasn't many full-time jobs here, was there? Really back home, and I think it was a chance to go abroad and just work full-time and just experience a new culture, live away from home, and you just worry about your football. So yeah, that was why I decided to give it a go. I nearly went back again a couple of years later, but things happened back here. Met the missus and stuff. So yeah, that put brakes to it.
Yeah, that always does, doesn't it? But you got to follow your heart, Bertie. What being 19? 19's young, right? Like I think about you and Grubber that first year because you were about a similar age. Like, what were your family like about you moving at that age?
Well, it's funny because my son's 17 now, and we talk about potential scholarships. He's a pretty good player and things. And I speak to my mum, so his nan, about it, and she was like, "Nah, look, I went through it as a mum not wanting my son to go, and now I think she'll kill me if the grandson goes." So I think at the time I was excited because chance to go away and a whole new culture and environment, as I said. But I think for the family, I think the old man was happy for me to go because he sees it, and I see that from my son. And yeah, I think for my mum it was tough. But no, I didn't really think of it. I think I was quite independent from a young age. I didn't feel like I was 19. You just digressed a little bit because obviously out in America you couldn't do as many social things as what I'd already been doing back here. But we had a good little group, say Grubber and Dave Doherty was another one the same similar age.
Yeah, Big Dave, remember him?
Yeah,
Big Bungle. 19-year-old, like obviously 21 to drink and do a lot of the things that you've probably been doing already. How did you find a culture in the US? Was there other things you managed? I mean, obviously there's so much more you can do outside of drinking, but was it something that you found Was there other things to do?
Yeah, it was tough because, as I say, over here I've been drinking and clubbing for quite a few years because the ID situation wasn't as strong as what it is now. But yeah, 19, I turned 20 when I was out there. We found ways and means of enjoying ourselves. I remember I found a local like under 21s club to go to. So me and the lads went to it, and we turned up, and like they're serving Sprite and Coke at the bar. And that's it. And we're like, oh my God, we feel really old. Even though these other people were our same age, it felt like we'd digressed to literally a youth club. The music and stuff was great, and it was around a lot of people. But yeah, it was tough. We found a few times we went out in New York, I remember, and they would allow under 21s in. You had to have a wristband so you couldn't drink, things like that. So we found ways and means of going out and socially, and it was doing the other things, going to Madison Square Garden for boxing or going and just enjoying the other side of things. But yeah, as a youngster, for a while, it was a bit sort of like everyone's going out and you wanted to be part of it. You had to be careful you didn't end up getting separated from the rest of the group. But the guys were good. The guys were good.
Yeah, it was a good group. I always think of that because that was really my first full year as well. So you kind of stick together a little bit, don't you, and pull people along the way. How was the footy for you? Like, were you always around footy at home, like coaching, or was this the first time while you were away that you really got involved with the coaching?
No, so I started coaching when I was 14. I was coaching like a local grassroots side. I was probably at least a level 2 at that point. By the time I'd gone out there, I'd done my level 2 when I was 17. I'd done my junior team managers, which was the level 1 when I was 16, like straight away. I worked for the FA. So I was, integrated within football quite heavily and coaching. So for me, it was going out there to learn off some other really good coaches, some more experienced coaches than me. And I think I really, really did that. Some of the guys we had that oversaw what we did was really impressive. But yeah, it was just a chance to immerse yourself in coaching day to day. Because here I was working for like Slampton in the community. You'd go into schools coaching. You didn't really have much club stuff. Whereas going to America, just worrying about that. Didn't have to worry about anything else. Didn't have to worry about my job at B&Q or anything else I was doing at the time. Because you just had to balance it all up. So for 9 months, focus on coaching and enjoying myself was it was a really good time and really important for my learning and development as a football coach.
Yeah, no. So for all the organisation of going into schools, did you ever see someone with jeans and shinnies in schools in the community in Southampton?
No, I can't say I saw jeans and shinnies. To be fair,
what was the culture of footy like for you over there? Like, because obviously, listen, it's impressive. I can remember doing my level 2 at a relatively young age, but even then, I think I was only 19, 20. I think I was 20 when I got my level 2. But you've already well ahead of it, involved in football, in and around people, and then you go to the US and. Yeah, it's great. It's there for you and there's clubs and stuff. But what did you notice about the footy as a culture or soccer as a culture in the US?
Yeah, I think the language was a big sort of turning point. Because even though I spoke English, it was the little details. Like when they said, like, if you tell a kid to tackle, he will tackle someone. Like American football side, if you tell someone, when you talk about you talk about stealing the ball, the basketball net. So a lot of things like that. So a lot of the little details in the language to make sure you got things across. I felt the way they played. I remember they played with like a stopper and a sweeper, and all that. And you were like, all right, what are you doing that for? Like, so when you went into the clubs, certainly they were very good at taking on board a European style. I think they knew that they needed to develop. But yeah, the culture for me it just felt a little bit behind. It felt a little bit behind as far as they were just playing catch up. There were some very good players there. I was actually a goalkeeping coach as well at the time.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a lot of goalkeeping stuff. And I found that was probably a bit further ahead in some respects. And the US have always produced very good goalkeepers. So I really enjoyed doing some of the goalkeeping stuff. And that was quite high level, I found. Some very good kids there. But yeah, in general, it just felt like they were playing catch up. The way that the leagues and stuff were set up and the fields. And I think I adapted quite quickly to it and just got on with it. I didn't feel like I was there to change anything. It was just to add new ideas. I'll be honest, I was probably being a bit selfish. It was just more about me and what I could gain from it rather than affecting other things. It'd be nice to go back and see how it's moved on. and see, what those kids' games look like now, and if there has moved closer to a more, maybe more European influence, or as well as they've got to keep their own identity as well, haven't they? They have to.
Yeah, it's definitely different now. And what you're seeing now, Bertie, is like a lot of the lads who we would have coached when, you were 19, 20, and I'm, obviously now I'm 45. You're up there as well now, mate. And like those kids who we coached are now doing the coaching.
Awesome.
So whatever, I mean, I'd say I use us as examples, but whatever we were doing, the methods that people like us were using, they're now bringing it into their own stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely. And there is the European culture. And obviously the head of the US Soccer's Matt Crocker now, who's from Southampton. He's actually a friend of mine, and so the people that are coming into the game, and as well as Emma Hayes in the women's side and things, so they're continuing to have that evolution of their game. So yeah, that cultural shift, as you're saying, is definitely going to have a massive impact, I'm sure.
Yeah. When you come back, right? Did anything that you took from that, even a briefer year, and it was, Jesus, 22 years ago now, isn't it? But anything you brought back from that shaped any sort of philosophy that you have, or anything that brought it away from the traditional sort of English pathway that we think about when we think about growing up playing footy? Did you bring any of it back with you that you still use now?
No, I don't think it was anything I took from the US massively. It was more the people I worked alongside definitely had an influence, from little small details to like runners from crosses. Just there was a few times I worked with some good coaches, and I just remember like a little bit of a penny drop moment, and you were like, oh, okay, they get that, and that was what I was there to take and influence. I suppose one thing I did do was, at the time, I remember they were quite good at doing around units. So they would do stuff with strikers, they would do stuff with midfielders, they would do stuff with defenders, and they would be very good at trying to hone in on almost like IDP type stuff. And I remember coming back to my local club, and I put some sessions on there like that were like, this is just strength and conditioning, which was probably the first time I'd sort of delved into sort of supporting that side of things. But I did a strikers clinic, which I think I probably took from that. And even thinking now at my club, we do IDPs where we do unit work and you do things like that. And maybe that was the first time I saw that. I don't know if that was happening loads over here, but certainly something I hadn't seen at my age there.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you did come back, you'd missed a year? Or do you feel like it was just another step forward? Like when you came back to England after 2004, the end of 2004, was it just like, right, I'm going to really kick on now? Or was it ever a plan to do anything else?
Yeah, I think it was a case of coming back, and what it did give me was, no, this is what I want to do. I want to be a football coach. I liked being around the teams, environments, even though they were obviously youth teams. It was working with teams, certainly. So yeah, I think when I come back, it was just a case of, I've had that experience, that almost CPD for 9 months to a year, and use that to go forward. So that was really the next evolution of what I was going to do. Come back, get my courses, get back involved. I then was lucky enough to get a job at the county FA, coaching full time, because the women and girls coach at the time was pregnant, so they needed someone to come in.
Okay.
The company that knew everything. So I was very lucky that I didn't come back and go and work for B&Q again. I left that. I got to come back and actually go into a full-time role, which was just a little bit of luck with her being off on maternity leave. And guess what? She actually didn't come back to it, and I stayed in the role, which evolved into an FA skills role and stuff. So yeah, I was football or all sports is sometimes just about the timing and your luck. But I come back from America, and as I say, I rolled into that quite quickly and was able to go straight into a pretty similar program as far as coaching.
Yeah, and you played a little bit at all. The one thing I mean, again, to put this in context, you and I probably haven't spoke out with a couple of messages here and there for the best part of 22 years. And it's funny how social media has a habit of, you just keep in touch. You basically keep in touch with people without keeping in touch with people. I just used to remember you posting when you were playing, and like you were scoring. Like you weren't a goalie at that point, were you?
No. I went in goal after breaking my leg. So, once I broke my leg, I got back into it through sort of playing in goal. I probably would have been a goalkeeper from the word go, but I was tiny as a kid. And obviously when we played, it wasn't even mini soccer. So, I didn't have that chance. So yeah, went in goal now. I still try to sell myself I'm a forward, but yeah, went back to playing, and then playing was still an important part of what I was trying to do. till probably about 28 when coaching started to merge, or management actually started merging in, did a little bit of a player manager role and things, and learnt loads there. Like that was almost my apprenticeship within management, was just managing and playing inside non-league football. And I always say that the amount of clubs I played for and the amount of different managers and coaches I played under have helped me massively, good and bad, because the bad ones will go in, well, I don't my players to feel how I felt under that person, for example, when they did this or whatever. So yeah, playing was a big part when I come back from the US. We didn't get to play those out there.
No.
I remember playing scrimmages on a Monday and then going to watch like a pickup game on a Monday and then going to the bar afterwards and watching the Monday night football and having a hot dog. That was good, but that happened towards the end of the year. So yeah, it was, I think that 9 months coaching was great, but I did miss playing. And when I come back, I wanted to catch that up, certainly.
I'm trying to think of the name of the clubs. Was it like Tottenham and a couple of other
Andover, yeah, sort of Southern League sort of side, Southern Prems and stuff. So they all bounce around. I say it's 20 years ago. Some of them are all over the different place now. So it's good to see them. You know, my nipper's playing now, and I've even played a couple of games this year to help a team out in goal. Yeah, contact.
How's that?
Well, yes, fine. Like in goal, it's okay now. I could probably play. I could play at that level, but it was the manager texted me and said, "Are you available? You know, our keeper's away." I said, "Yeah, it's fine." And then I actually said, "Well, where is the game?" And he was like, "Oh, it's on the Isle of Wight." You know, I was like, "Yeah, of course it's on the Isle of Wight." So, yeah, I maybe have to be a bit cleverer about picking and choosing the games to go and help them out playing. But
that's funny. That yeah. So, at what point? So you did a little bit. You're in kind of in coaching and management in the men's game, right, in the lower leagues down on the South Coast. At what point do you start getting involved in the women's game?
It started with going right the way back to Hampshire FA, before America, where I was working for them in the coaching department, and I worked under a head of coaching called Sue Lopez. And Sue was like an England international, a bit of a legend in the women's game, played out in Italy, etc. And she got me coaching in with a Southampton Girls Centre of Excellence at the time, and we had a very good side, a couple of England girls. We actually won the league, beating your Arsenals and Chelseas. You know, we had a very good side. And so that was my first sort of foray into the women's game. And obviously what Sue saw in me was she put me with the 16s straight into 11-a-side, rather than normally as a young coach, you probably come in with your 10s, don't you? 9s, 10s. But she put me with the 16. She saw something with me for the bigger game and evolved from that. And then when I was come back and sort of into coaching, I'd kept an eye on the women's game, just connections with a lot of those players. And then when I was involved in the men's game, I broke my leg playing. And whilst I was waiting to recover from that, the Millwall Lionesses job come up. And it was the first time I'd ever looked at jobs or anything like that, just floating around on Indeed and stuff, on job websites. And I saw it and I thought I'd have a look, and I went down and watched them play against Bristol City, and Bristol won 2-1, and the player that scored was a player called Millie Farrow, and she played for me when she was younger. So again, there was a little bit of a connection there, and then I went for the job, and that was it. I got the job and thought I'll stay at Millwall for probably about 6 months to the end of the season and see how it felt, and it felt good, and we'd done really well. And then it rolled on from there. So I wasn't, because there's a lot of travel, so I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in it at first.
Yeah. Did you, just to jump back to America a little bit, did you notice the women's game in America to be a bit more developed at the stage when you were there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. You'd see that the female players were just up to speed quickly, and certainly comparing it to what I'd been involved with back in England, that was probably it sort of counted each other. So the boys' game, you'd compare back home, you'd be like, well, this is behind. Then the girls' game would be, definitely ahead. And again, where it's jumped to now, and it's pushed forward, great. But I think we even had Kelly Smith involved in our coaching stuff. She come down and got involved a little bit and stuff, was doing bits. So yeah, there was influences there, definitely.
I remember that day when Kelly Smith came down. She was in Boston, wasn't she? She was playing for the Boston team, and she's come down, and lads were like trying to give it the big licks, and she's just owned every single one of them. It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and you're like, yeah, she's proper. But what was some of the biggest, like going into Millwall at that stage? I'm not sure. I mean, to give it a timeline, you're probably looking 2012, 13 ish.
A little bit late. I think it was 15, 16, I think it was. Yeah.
So what does Millwall, in 2016?
So they were in the second division, the WSL2 at the time. They were second to bottom, but had only won one game all season at the time as far as on the pitch. Watford were bottom, but in better form. So the manager had gone. I come in to a group, and what I actually found was a really good group of players. The manager before, to be fair to her, she'd assembled a good group. They just weren't clicking on the pitch, which happens. Yeah, went into Millwall. The club was connected to the men's side as far as we played at the Den. We had the kit and equipment, but we didn't have lots of resources. Millwall's not a club which has lots of money. That's known. They've always punched above their weight, and we were certainly doing that. So there was a support, and the club were great, and I really enjoyed my time there. But yeah, we went in. We done really well. That sort of back end of the season, stayed up. And then we rolled into the next year, and we went a whole calendar year unbeaten. Just the club just turned completely around, and we went from second bottom when I joined to competing for the title and nearly getting promoted. So that was against the likes of Everton and Doncaster Bells, with the two sort of sides up there with us. So, and it was also at the same time where it moved from the Summer League to the Winter League. So you had a lot of transition going on, but the club were great, the players were great. We did have financial problems at the end of my time there, which was a big shame. Which is littered across the women's game, and that was a big tough one.
Yeah, for you personally though, like how? Because you know what football's like. I mean, it's everyone wants to be involved, so everyone can be very critical of other people, right? Like the new guy coming in, you've literally been coaching at Southampton in the academy, the girls' academy, and then you've just applied for this job at Millwall off the back of that. Granted, you've been in the lower leagues as well on the men's side. What type of buy-in do you get straight away? Hey, all right, this is Lee Burch. They unveil Lee Burch, right? And the girls are like, okay, who's that? No offense. What do you do to develop do you have to change your philosophy in any way? What do you have to do to develop that culture from day one?
Yeah, well, I think because I'd been involved in men's non-league football and running, and the game felt a lot closer to that at times with the way the resources and it went. So I was like bringing in some stuff from that. I think the players needed some honesty. And I remember pulling a player early doors and taking her to the side to tell her she wasn't going to start the game. And she said that she'd never had that before. No one had ever had the conversation with her to tell her she wasn't going to play in senior football. She just had to expect it. And she was like really thankful. And I was blown away by that, because I always want to have those conversations, not every time because that's impossible, but certainly when you've got a good player that's been playing and you take her out the team. So I think it was getting buy-in from players like that. I remember my first game, as funny as it was, I went and watched that Bristol game. By the time I come around, I was in charge for the Bristol game at home, and we lost 2-1, but we worked on something all week around they had a centre midfielder that was really good at spraying the ball at distance. But I said, on a big pitch like the Den, towards 60th, 70th minutes, those balls, they were just dropping 5-6 yards shorter just as she got tired. And I said, well, that's the moment when we can tuck inside a little bit and nick the ball and then go and counter. It happened exactly. We won that ball, we nicked it, we went on the counter and we scored. And when we spoke to the players afterwards, they were like, yeah. And I think if you, as a coach, you get something like that right, immediately the players go, well, he knows what he's on about. So, and again, it wasn't with everyone, because there was 4 or 5 players that probably shipped out quite quickly. That was not a problem, because I had to have the players on board that wanted to go forward. And as I say, ultimately we did. And some good players went. That was part and parcel of it. So I think I was just honest, and I just tried to create a relationship and link with players, lent on the captains, the good players, and made people feel valued. And then guess what? If they start feeling valued and they start playing well and they start winning, like, it becomes a bit of a roller coaster. And we did, and we signed some very good players. We got couple of players in on loan from Arsenal, who we ended up signing. Having Arsenal, Chelsea on your doorstep and being able to take
pick them
was really, really important. So yeah, just took time.
I say this all the time, but there's levels to everything, right? So having someone like myself who's coached men's and women's, or girls and boys, however you want to say it, what are the positives or the more positive things about coaching the women's game? Because I kind of know the answer because I've done it myself, but what's one thing that you're like, it makes it so much easier?
I think it's the mentality, the elite mentality that they've got. They want to, they're the same as any player that players want to get better. They want to win games of football. They want to feel valued. But what they will do is they will have an elite mentality towards it. And when you've got players either traveling a couple of hours to get to training after work and all that stuff alongside, just their questioning and answering and making sure that they really understand what you want. And they will try to go out there and really do what you want. And I remember when I was coaching Southampton under 16s, and I'd worked with loads of teams by this point, but we played a 11-a-side tournament. It was like a 15-minute game at a time, but it was 11-a-side. So we played the first game. I say we played Watford, and we absolutely blitzed them. We controlled the game, but we drew the game 0-0 because we run out of time. If we'd played it over 90 minutes, probably would have won 7-0, but we didn't. And I pulled the players in. I said, look, I think we need to be a bit more direct to get a goal. And you might just need to, if they get high, pop the ball over the top, get in behind them and see if we can get that first goal. The ball went to an England player, a girl called Danny Ackerman, who was unbelievable, and she literally popped it over the top. We ran through and scored. And I remember going, oh my God, she's listened to me. She's done exactly what I said, and it's worked. And I'm like, oh, wow, they are going to take that on board. And it was a penny drop moment for me, because I think the kids I've coached before, you'd probably see that, but not to that extent.
Has there ever been a point across all of the clubs you're at where you're just like, okay, they're having you? Like that. There's a moment where the girls they're on board, they're completely moving in the right direction, or to the point where they make fun of you? Because that's always a funny thing for me. Like whenever someone starts making fun of you in a respectful way, they've kind of on site. Like one day, for example, like I had a girls team, high school team, and one day for Halloween to take the piss, they all turned up with ballskin caps on and like trackies on. And at that point, someone said to me, that's probably one of the biggest compliments you can get. Like, have you ever had that where you've been had off by them properly and you're like, oh, all right, fair enough, good one?
Yeah, I think so, because I think it shows that there's a level of respect that they won't go too far, but they also understand that the relationship's in a good place, that you can laugh with each other. And humour is such an important part of relationship building. It's huge. And players that can laugh at themselves as well as a group thing is so important. And I think we had that Millwall group to start with was a lot of players that had been through some tough times together, and we really worked to make that social and that cultural links. You travel the length and breadth of the country from Newcastle down to Southampton, and it's a lot of time spent together. And I do think there was probably hard to pinpoint a few, but I just think that the players had the ability to give me a little bit of stick when they needed to. Those players, for example, are still in heavy contact with a lot of them, because that's the word of mouth is really important within the women's game, within all football really. But it's a small amount of clubs, it's a small pool of players, and there's probably not many teams now that haven't got a player that maybe I've managed now. I don't think there's another manager that's maybe done the WSL. The WSL2, the North and the South divisions, the 4. I don't think there's anyone. There's a couple that have done the 3, literally a couple. Your Hope Powells and your Mel Rays at Sunderland, Karen Hills, maybe another one. But it's a small group that have done that amount of the top end of the game. So the impact and the link with those players is important. And as you talk about actual humour and connection, it was a bit different. But I went up to work with a club when I was out the game for a year. And I nearly took a role up at a club called Durham, who were obviously in Newcastle. And they'd been our rivals at Millwall, to be honest, because they were a very similar group. Millwall was inner city London, Durham inner city, and up the north. They were so close and so tight-knit, and they've got players that have been there since literally 11 and are still there now. And when we did the year unbeaten, they actually beat us and stopped our run. And it was a bit of a rivalry anyway. So I'm now going up there potentially to take a role. And I've gone into this session and I'm stood there with a whole squad. Now, they've just ever known me as the opposition coach for Millwall. And I was like, what do I do here? Because these players, they aren't stupid. They're senior pros. And I just said to them, look, who was involved in the game that beat my Millwall team and stopped our run? And about 7 of 8 of them sort of put their hand up a bit sheepishly. And I was like, right, there's some box-to-boxes for you lot first before we even start the session. And they cracked up and it was like it broke the ice. And I think, and then they probably thought, okay. And And I still speak to some of those. And unfortunately, the job didn't work for me just from a logistic point of view. But it's a great club with a great staff and a great group of players. So, yeah, that was one where I was like, I've got to, let's address the elephant in the room. And if you do it via a bit of humour, because that's, probably sits with me a little bit better and it breaks the ice and it seemed to work. So I did a few sessions and still speak to some of them now,
Yeah, no, definitely does, doesn't it, sometimes? So move on from Millwall. We'll go from there you went to London Bees, am I right?
No, I went to Yeovil.
Oh, I've had a beast there, haven't I? That was it, yeah. So were Yeovil in the WSL 1 at that time when you go?
Yeah, they are, yeah.
What's that step? Because this is kind of a question that I would want to get to, and I probably will get to as well. Like Yeovil in the WSL 1, you're coming from Millwall, and you talked a little bit about financial difficulties towards the end of your time at Millwall. Like what is the disparity like between the levels? Is there a disparity between levels, or is it a disparity between clubs in general?
Both.
Yeah.
This was at the time where to be in WSL 1, you had to be professional. So we were top end at Millwall fighting with Doncaster Bells. And I remember players coming to me saying, if we go up, I won't be here anyway because I can't go full time with you. So because of career and choices and the money that wasn't being paid. So I think I left Millwall, got the opportunity to go full time in the WSL with Yeovil was a real big opportunity to go and compete against Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City day in, day out, work full time professionally because Millwall was in the evening, 3 times a week in the evening. People had jobs alongside it. So this was just a great opportunity for me. And unfortunately, as you said there was a disparity between what I had at Millwall and Yeovil in a good way. We were moving forward, but we were compared to Chelsea, Arsenal. It was night and day. But everyone knew that, and we gave it a good go. But again, money and finance problems reared its head, and towards the end of the season, we got deducted 12 points. So, we got relegated on that, really, because we jumped above Everton at one point. But Yeovil was great. It was a great time, but unfortunately, finances killed us. And then the FA relegated us 2 divisions because of finance rather than 1. So it meant that everyone lost their job. And everything we built for that year, because we kind of knew we would probably go down. And I say we did get above Everton, so there was an outside chance. But we were going, you know what, if we go into the Championship with this group of players, add a few more, all the stuff we'd done, we fancied having a good go at it. But things transpired in the back. But it was a really, really fun year, because we were competitive across so many games. I mean, we lost to Liverpool twice 2-1, we lost to Bristol twice 2-1. The games were close. We got a couple of hide-ins, but then that Arsenal team of that year were a joke, and I think they beat Chelsea 5-0. So when we lost 7-0 to them, actually, in the context of what was going on and how good that team was, you were holding your hands up. And next time we played them, we only lost 3-0. Yeah, but generally 90% of the games we were very competitive.
What's that like, that experience of going up against these top teams? What is the difference maker? Is it just the size of the club, the scale of the clubs?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think you've got that size of the club, and we did feel like, especially when it comes down to refereeing performances and refereeing decisions, Yeovil are a small club, and you're playing Liverpool. Like Liverpool, for example, we lost 2-1 in the last minute. The goal was offside and it wasn't a foul and all that stuff. So you did feel like that things just wouldn't go against you and the big clubs would get that. But again, when you're down the bottom of the league, that's what happens anyway.
Yeah. So after Yeovil, that's when you go to Bees. Eventually I'm going to get it right. Like a broken clock's right twice a day, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's tough to leave because again, you put so much work into something over the course of a year, and you don't want to look like you're jumping ship, but ultimately life is life, innit? You've got to have a job. You've got to make ends meet. So How easy was it for you to go to Bees, and was it just a case of applying, or were you offered the job?
Yeah, well, I didn't really have the choice as far as leaving Yeovil. Didn't want to, but as I said, because we got relegated 2 divisions, we went into the National League. The funding isn't there. The money's not there. The full-time job wasn't there. I had a full-time job. I got family and things to pay for. So it wasn't going to work. And that was for the players and stuff as well. And everybody knew that. So, had to move away. And London Bees, actually, it was the first time I was out of a job for a while. And it was a bit a bit worrying. First time I sat there, I remember my boy was playing in a football tournament away for a weekend, and I remember going back to my room early and just sat there. First time I worried about, actually, how am I going to pay my mortgage? And then I went on LinkedIn, and the general manager of London Bees had dropped me a message saying, "I hear you've left. We've got a job opening. If you're interested, put your CV in, and we'll go from there." So I was like, okay. So put it in, went for the job, went through the normal process, but obviously felt like I was probably in a good place because they'd sort of mentioned it to me. Was warned off it by a few people, to be honest, because obviously London Bees is connected to Barnet, and there's quite a bit of a managerial turnaround in those clubs. Yeah, I think you do your due diligence, and I knew what I was going into. And again, I really enjoyed my time there and had a really good time. And that was through the COVID period as well. So we were able to keep working to a point. And yeah, had a good couple of years at Barnet, at London Bees. And it was just a tough time for the club because the men's club had got relegated out of the Football League at the time. They'd gone into the National League and they were trying to get back up. But because of the COVID hitting, they didn't get the chance to go back up, which meant they lost all their funding. I remember being there and the whole academy system went. Hundreds of boys and staff, and that literally all just went because the parachute payments had run out from coming out of the league. So it was a tough time for everyone. Of course, COVID was, and the pandemic in general. But we were able to work to a point and get through. And then we got towards the end of the season, and the chairman made the decision to furlough me. I think he thought at the time we were safe. There was about 6 games to go, and we were okay. I think third bottom at the time. But when you change a manager, that's worked with a lot of these players. And by the way, some of these players that were London Bees had come from Millwall to Yeovil and Bees with me. So, we had a very good way of working. We had a good side. And yeah, unfortunately, they lost the rest of the games of that season. And my assistant, who's still my assistant now, was put in a very tough situation because the players just didn't see the future. They didn't want to be there anymore. I don't think they're down tools, but the motivation they were already looking where else they could go. And I think virtually all of them, bar 2, left at the end of that season. And so the club unfortunately got relegated. And I was again out of work till the end of the season. And that's when I made a decision to step away for a year because football or the women's game was a bit all over the place. Run a college program and start one of those up locally. So not traveling everywhere for a while before jumping into Coventry.
And it's not, I'm not trying to make this podcast all doom and gloom because I do want it, because obviously want to bring light to the women's game in the UK, and we will get there. On that one then, how do you manage the expectations of players? Because there's not the finances there that the men's game has got when they've got jobs. And then they've got to come to training, 3 times a week, or whether it was at Millwall, whether it was at Bees, whether it is where you are now as well. How do you manage those expectations of those players? Because you want them to perform a certain way, but you've also got to remember that they've got other things going on. They've got jobs. They've got, they might have kids. They might have family that that they're dealing with because families are mental. How do you do that?
I think the non-league men's stuff probably prepared me for that, because in the non-league men's, you're working with lads that are just training twice a week, playing on a Saturday for a few quid here, there. They always lie about that. They always say they're on more than they are. That's what non-league's like. And again, they have families, partners and jobs that impact that. So I think I took that learning from how to manage those players into the women's games, especially at Bees and Millwall, where it was evening training, training at 8:30 till 10 o'clock at night. And then you got people travelling still hour or 2 hours home after that. So my goalkeeper, for example, was based in Norwich, and Norwich to London Bees was 2 and a bit hours, So but again, what I did is I said, you're not training all the sessions. You can train 2 out of the 3 because, it doesn't make sense. And she was superb. So yeah, I think it was just giving leeway where it needs to be. That's the big thing. And as far as expectations, it's balancing that leeway alongside the professionalism that you want to get to and how you do things. And that's what I've probably is one of the strengths I've had, is getting that not right all the time, but I've got that into quite a good place. I think now we're at a club where we have full-time players. We're a hybrid model. We train in the day. Some players have jobs alongside it, but that's because they think about their careers and they do things before training rather than after, because we train in the day. So yeah, I think we're in a better place now, and some of the full-time players just have to worry about their football and go from there. But I think their expectations is how do we keep moving forward? How do we get to the point where we can get more money and can? The honest answer was that was always going to be driven by your top clubs and everyone else that's holding on to the coattails. We needed Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool to go and do that and to make the women's game what it has, and we need to hold on to the coattails. And those independent women's clubs, obviously London City Lionesses in the WSL now, what a story that is. That's brilliant, and that is they took Millwall's license. They took, that club that I was at. So it's great to see those. We spoke about Durham earlier as Rugby Borough. We're an independent women's side, so you got those sides in there as well as the ones attached to men's sides. So the expectations are the players just want to earn enough to be able to worry about just football. And I spoke to a player this weekend. She was talking about, I think Pep Guardiola said to the Man City lads, go off and have 3 days, go and have a cocktail, go and sit on a beach somewhere and relax. And she was going to me, can we do that? And I was like, yeah, but we ain't going to be, she was like, we don't earn the money to just get on a private plane and do it 3 days. I was like, well, we don't, but you can have a cocktail down in Bournemouth Beach or something.
Yeah. You can have a pint in the bar after the game if you want, but that's about it. So you take the step back, you work on the college program that you've got, and then you do go back in to Cov, right?
Yeah.
Coventry United. And now, am I right in thinking that Coventry United is now morphed into where you are now, right? So, and when did you move into there?
Yes.
What year would this be now? 22?
4 years ago, yeah. So we're 4 years down. So we've been 3 years as Rugby Borough. We did 1 year as Coventry United, but I come in really late as far as pre-season was already up and running. We had no players. They'd gone from being full-time to part-time, so all the players had left. We gave it a good go the second half of the season. We brought some very good players in, like Kiara Keating. We got her on loan, and obviously she's an England international now. Izzy Goodwin, we signed from Aston Villa, who's now at London City Lionesses in the WSL. So we had a good side, but injuries to those key players. For example, Kiara broke her finger in the last minute trying to stop Charlton beating us 1-0. And when you get really good players in, you need them players to be playing. And unfortunately, the squad wasn't where it needed to be to keep us up in the Championship. So when we went down, we then got the opportunity to become Rugby Borough and merge and move in that direction. And it was a big decision because moving out of Coventry is half an hour down the road, but Coventry is a big footballing city. But the owner and the CEO made that decision, and rugby's been great for us. So we moved 4 players across. That was it, but we moved all the staff and everyone else and the same owner. So now we sit as a new club. We've been here 3 years now.
In 2016 you went in first to Millwall? How have you seen the women's game progress? It's on the telly now. You know what? Whenever there's an international weekend, it's on Sky Sports over here, over here on my dodgy box that I'll probably get done for now. But you see it, it's a lot more prevalent now. The players are on the telly. You've got former players commentating on it. Obviously the success in the Euros with the national team. How have you seen it progress? Because you've been on the ground floor, haven't you, since 16?
Yeah,
10 years.
It's 10 years worth of football, and across all the different divisions. So I think the easiest way to explain is I've got better resources, better budget, better resources, better everything now in the 3rd division than what I had at Yeovil in the WSL. So that shows where it's moved along. And now I know there's players that I had that were on expenses a week to play that are in the same division now or on a full-time proper wage. So, and that's where it's moved as far as the opportunities for young players. I mean, my daughter's 12 and she's had exactly the same opportunities to play football as my son has. So, and she's been involved in top-end grassroots, but also AFC Bournemouth's Centre of Excellence, or ETC as it's run, so academy stuff. So young players that are coming through, and we've got a young player I signed from Southampton last season. We take girls from Leicester. They've just had the young players coming through are so good because they've had better access to everything. They're faster, stronger, more powerful, better technicians, better understanding the game because of the coaching, the facilities and everything that they've got going forward. So the base is right, the grassroots is right. That's where they're at, and I think that the opportunities are just there for young players to develop, and that's because the whole system is in a better place. And yes, money talks and provides everything, but it's also getting the right people into the jobs. And it's people that were maybe involved in the game before have moved out, and better people have come into it. And that's still, it's important that the right people are in the right jobs for the right reasons. We're seeing obviously a lot of ex-players, as you said, about going into punditry, but some like Joe Potter, etc., have gone into management. Then you've got like Keris Harrop, who was at Birmingham and stuff. She's a player's agent. So they're coming into these roles. Lee Nicol, who played for me at Millwall, is the player care at Crystal Palace, and she's carved out a great career for herself in that sort of niche, as well as there's a player up at Durham that's now a physio. The players that are coming into it, and that sort of that culture has been able to work into a lot better place. Karen Carney's just invested in Birmingham City. Like this is massive movements.
It's like what we're talking about, though, isn't it? Right at the beginning, when we're talking about players over here and how the game's developing over here. Now you've got players who have been coached by, again, I say us, but like a generation, call it, of coaches that came over to the US between end of the 90s and early 2000s. Those people are now passing it, paying it forward. You've got people like that now who've been in the women's game for a number of times. Have been in the trenches as well. Let's not, no joke about it, but now they're in there. Like, I'm thinking about the agents, like people who are going into agency now, like they have a perspective of what people should be getting paid, right? And how the contract should be structured. So to help these female players get to where they need to get and make it a sustainable way of life, right? I mean, surely that's positive.
Yeah, definitely. And we would see agents early days that would come in and would just be comparing everything to the men's game. And you're like, you're missing the trick. That's not how this works. It's not our game is not there yet. And they were trying to force things through and some crazy deals. And you're going, you obviously don't understand the landscape. And the better agents have stayed in for longer times and are better. And as I say, the ones that have been involved in the game, either coaching, but like Keris said earlier, that know exactly what's going on, she can advise the players better. Yeah, everyone's just a bit more of an understanding. I mean, we still get people come to us, and Rugby Borough as an independent side, it's like, what do we actually do? They don't understand we house players, we have full-time players, even in the third division. But because we're not attached to a men's club, there's a natural, not that people look down their nose, they just don't see what's going on sometimes. But people within the game know it. They know about Durham, they know about London City, they know about Lewis, they know about the independent sides, and that we're doing things a lot better than some massive football names. So that's really, really important. So it's moving in the right direction. As you said about it being on Sky Sports, it's not just that visual thing of the actual games, but it's being on FIFA. It's the sticker books. It's the players players having access to go and watch the local games as well. So, as I say, my daughter now, she thinks about Thiago Silva and Millie Bright in the same way. As a Chelsea fan, that's who she holds up as her two, pillars for. She's a young centre back herself, so that's just as important. And I've got lots of friends that have watched the game now, and I've got a mate that's a Man United fan, and for a long time he was enjoying the women's game more than the men's because the women's were more successful. So it's and I think if you support a club as well, like you support a club, no matter if someone's wearing your badge, surely that's you want them to be the best representative of your club. If I went down the park now and saw two kids and one was wearing a Chelsea shirt and one's wearing a Liverpool shirt, I'm wanting the kid in the Chelsea shirt to win the 1v1. You know what I'm saying? Surely that's what it's about. So I think the culture is changing and moving in the right direction as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, like obviously, and I don't want to sound like ignorant to it, but I think the biggest thing for me where it really hit home, and it helped that you were on the pitch at the same time, is when you played Liverpool in the FA Cup was it last year or the year before?
Last year, yeah.
Last year. It kind of blew me away, the fact that rugby, first of all, I'm like, I thought you were somewhere else. And then I realised Rugby Borough. And then you were playing Liverpool. It was sold out. And it wasn't just Liverpool fans there. There was rugby fans there. And you nearly won as well. Like, I found myself, it's funny because, like, obviously Liverpool fan and everything else and with the family and whatnot. But I just remember like going, go on. Like there was one of your players, you had a winger. I think she was a left. Oh, mate.
Yeah. And
She absolutely, she tore Liverpool to bits.
Yeah.
She was going on these little mazes all over the place and she nearly scored. And I'm like, oh my God. And then Liverpool obviously got a stuffy one at the end, didn't they? Or towards the end. But that really brought it home to me that like, this is proper this. And then you look where, you're a third tier team, quote unquote. And you're taking Liverpool, and not only that, but the following is there, and it's in the forefront of everyone's mind. It's not like you're the last game on Match of the Day. You're like you're in your prime time spot, and I think that's what really brought it home for me.
Yeah.
How was that for you? How was that experience for you? Because again, obviously jealous because you're playing against Liverpool, but how was it for you and the club, and what did that do for you guys personally, and obviously as a club in general?
Yeah, well, I think obviously I played against Liverpool or managed against Liverpool quite a few times. So, like, that wasn't an issue for me. It was the fact of how far we got in the cup. There was a little bit of fanfare because of the name Rugby Borough versus Liverpool. At the same time, you had Wolves in our division and versus Man United, and that didn't get half the stuff we did because of the name. But us and Wolves are on the same level. Now what happens a lot of the time is these WSL sides go and really smash these even tier 3 sides, and I think West Brom unfortunately got beat quite heavily I think last year, but you got to get to that point to do that. The game for us was sandwiched in a horrendous time because we played Wolves in the league the week before in a top of the title clash, and then we played Nottingham Forest away at the City Ground on the Thursday after Liverpool. So our three biggest, Nottingham Forest won the league. So our biggest 3 games of the season were within a week and a half. The timing was horrendous. But if I'd had my choice, I probably would have rotated the team for the Liverpool game and then been stronger in the 2 games. But I think if I hadn't played my best side against Liverpool, those players would have lynched me. They would have killed me. Plus also, because we were on TV, because it was in front of everyone, if we go and lose that game 8-0, that doesn't look good for our brand. So, as you said there, people that saw it, and I've signed players off the back of it who saw us, what we did that day, were really impressed. For our brand to go out there and give a really important performance on the pitch and, as you said, off of it where you could see everything. I mean, we sold out, but we could have done double that. But the ground doesn't hold it because of just safety regulations. So, but no, it was a great day, and the CEO at the time done a superb job to get the game on, and it was really good. And obviously, for me, that game's always going to hold a little bit more personal meaning now because Matt Beard was the coach for Liverpool, and Beardy was a good friend of mine, and obviously passed away this year. And he'd come into my division and was going to be Burnley manager, and we were going to be going against each other for the title. And we'd had loads of conversations, and I remember walking out at half time in the Liverpool game, 0-0. We'd done well. Tactically, we were in the place we wanted to be. And as I walked over the pitch, he stood there with 4 internationals coming on. And I was like, cheers. He was like, sorry, mate, like, it is what it is. And it was one of the subs. She scored a screamer, a pretty good goal. And then, as you say, they got a bit of a scrappy one towards the end. But that's going to be a nice memory for me because he was a top bloke, and it was a really good game, and he was really. He was excellent for the women's game in general, and we gave a good account of ourselves, as you say. Ange had the moment where she beat a couple of players and went through 1-on-1, and they recovered and she nicked it, and the keeper made a good save actually. If that had gone 1-0, imagine what you could have done. Yeah, the girls enjoyed it. Unfortunately, we didn't get that run this year, and there's lots to talk about Equal FA Cup and how much the money can help. But I'm sure we'll have another good run, and if we can get back to a WSL side. I mean, when I was at Millwall, we had a good run and we played Arsenal, and we only lost 1-0 to Arsenal. We were obviously WSL 2 side. But in the women's game, it's very hard to get those shocks. The FA Cup's great, but it's just not probably got that shock value yet. Those results don't happen like we've seen this year with Mansfield, wasn't it? It will be great, and maybe we can be the one to do it next year.
How important has it got to you to build these relationships with the players and people around the club to make sure that everyone feels as supported as possible? We'll take rugby because that's where you are. And that's, you know, you can only look at where you are at the moment. But what do you do to make sure that there's a level of respect, accountability, and it all folds into one in the club that you're at?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because sport and football will stretch you and challenge you all the time, whether you're winning, losing, starting, not playing, enjoying your football, not enjoying your football. And it's a roller coaster for the whole year. And as a professional athlete, you're going to have those peaks and troughs, and as staff as well. What we've tried to do is create a culture where there is someone that you can talk to, and we can try to support people on a human level, you know, first and foremost. And you don't always get that, not even get it right, but sometimes you don't quite get it in the right place. And unfortunately, as a manager, I will upset players every week because I can only pick 11. So immediately I'm going to upset people, and that's just kind of part and parcel of it. And then we lose the game, they're going to be upset. We're going to win the game, but a player doesn't play, she's still going to be a bit disappointed. So it's a case of making sure we have a lot of wraparound support. As all clubs, we've had some really, really tough situations go on with, you know, people have things going on. Nothing we can do about that apart from just be there to support the player. If she needs an extra day off, she needs whatever, you know, it's a case of going, what do you need? How do we help you? And we don't get it right all the time, you know, and but you just want to hope that in future people reflect on it and go, you know what, I do think that they were just trying to help. They were just trying to help, and it might. I've had players that have come back to me that have worked before, and they just want to sound off on some bits and that. So it's a tough one. It is a tough one, and these player care roles that the BSL are looking to employ more are really important. But again, it's having the right people in them.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it comes down to what you said a little bit earlier about just being flexible with people, right? And just knowing the person, right? And being human. There's a human element to it, isn't there? Where you've just got to be like, listen, if you need the time, you take the time, and just offering help and support where you can. Looking back, right? What have you seen as success in all the clubs that you've been at? And do you define success differently now than you would have done maybe 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. I know success is different per club. So at Millwall, as I say, we went a year unbeaten. We were very close to winning the league. I was lucky enough to get manager of the year for the LMA. Having that cup run against Arsenal, that was success at that club. It was about winning. Success at Yeovil was being competitive in a very tough league and preparing for the next year, and that whole community feel. You know, we had very good fans there, and that was the success there. But unfortunately, things transpired to not help us do that. So yeah, I do think it changes. And now at Rugby Borough, we're in a situation of going, success for us is building a brand, building a club. We obviously took that step backwards from Coventry and took that step backwards within the league, set ourselves and build up. You know, if we don't, we're slightly behind for promotion this year. We're third. If the top two go up and it rolls into next year, then we'll be sat here going, you know what, on paper, success has to be promotion. But this year, success wasn't promotion. Success was giving it a good go and making sure we're up there and building that platform for future years. And also it's about building that platform for when you do go up, you don't come back down, because, you know, there's obviously the yo-yo factor and things. So success is different across those clubs, definitely. For me, success is really people wanting to turn up to work and doing what they love every day. And there's going to be moments when it's tougher than others, of course, but ultimately I'm able to be a football manager, you know, and do what I want to do day in, day out. And that's success for me. And it's putting a roof over my head and feeding my kids. And that's a massive success, and being part of the game and trying to enjoy training, enjoy matches, probably enjoy Monday to Saturday more than I do Sunday because of the pressure of winning games and you know, driving home Sunday, it can ruin your day if you don't get your result. So that's success for me, and making sure my staff and players want to come and play for you and want to come and work for you, and enjoy being together.
No, that's fair, mate, isn't it? I mean, it is. And the older you get, the more it's less it is about trophies, as much as you like a trophy. And let's not take it away, mate. WSL Manager of the Year is no small achievement. Yeah, and you look good in the suit as well, mate. You look very posh and all that. You know, it was pretty good. Like, do you think the pathway is a little bit different now than maybe it was 10 years ago? Because it used to be, and it still is, girls will come over here, play in college, get scholarship in college, or get some sort of financial aid, play a couple of years in college, maybe stay over here for an extra year and play, or then go back to England. Like, is there a pathway now more so in England? Or do you still see people coming over here and then coming back?
Yeah. Well, Grace Fisk at Liverpool's another example. I had Grace Fisk at Millwall, and she went across to the States for, I think she did the full 4 years before she'd come back, and she's Liverpool's captain now. So, yeah, that was certainly the way it was, wasn't it? And I think there's a lot of my players that I've got currently now have done that. They've been out to the States and they've done that. We have one player that is from Khalees, is from America. She's over here. She has a dual citizenship, but so obviously she went through that as a kid herself. But a lot of my players, Ebony, Nikki Potts, that they all went over there. They did their 4 years. They come back. We've actually got a girl training with us at the moment because she's back for a little break and she's going back out there. So she knew a couple of players. She was like, I want to keep myself ticking over. So she just come in and trained, and she's a good player. We've got a couple of our development girls currently looking at to still do that this year, and they've had meetings. We made sure we buddied her up with the players that have done that to give her the best opportunity. So yeah, I still think that's a viable option for players, because like we said earlier, going up to the States wasn't just about the coaching. It was about being away from home, a new culture, meeting new people, challenging yourself, being in a new environment. If a player goes and does that, what an experience that is. Like, it's just so good. And like yourself, people end up having a pathway and maybe end up staying out there. And, I've got a link with a couple of people that want to come in and speak to players about going there. And I will always be like, look, I did it as a coach. I'd have loved to have done it as a player. Like, go and give it a go. And so I still think it's an option. But the big thing, and I remember I was in a meeting with the FA a handful of years ago, and they didn't want this happening. They didn't want our best players like Grace Fisk going away from England for 4 years. They wanted the best players to stay in our system and to be here and at least have that opportunity. I think that's there now with the PGA program and the opportunities now. Like, there's no reason to go there. What you can't get is that cultural and that challenge of being away and living in a new country and experiencing all that. So if you want that, you're going to look to go there, whether it's America or, you've got players now that I've worked with that are in Australia and Italy and Portugal. Like, it's so good.
What advice, take your daughter, not to put you under too much pressure, but what advice are you giving young female players now who are looking for a career in football?
Well, my daughter won't listen to me, so I can't talk.
No, are you telling someone else to tell her?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. No, I think she's only just realising what I do and that I probably know a little bit and probably can help her. But again, that's just that father-daughter relationship. But no, I think with young players, it's just to play and get that. Make sure you're challenging yourself. And the opportunities and the pathways are there now, whether it's mixing, playing with boys or playing the girls only, and probably getting a mixture of that with the pathways now. I think as a young player, go out there and enjoy yourself. And if you can immerse yourself in the game, then I think that definitely helps. But also, I think for female players, it's making sure they try all different sports, because I think that also helps them as well. To especially from a younger age, my daughter did every sort of sport. Their school was very good. She's doing ping pong tournaments. She's playing golf at school and things like that, as well as your invasion games and stuff. And I think that just sets you up for it. So, because then you also find the passion for it. So I didn't think my daughter would do it. I was very hands off with her. She found her own way, which is the best way, surely.
No, true. And then last one, mate. What are you most proud of to this point?
I think, as a kid, you grow up and everyone wants to be a professional player, don't they? They want to be a pro and they want to go and play the game that you love and earn a living doing it. And you see all the flash cars and stuff as a kid. That's kind of, you want to play the game. And I think when you realise you're not going to get there as a player, it's what else. And I'm proud that I've been able to carve out a job and a role and a half successful career so far within the game. I always get people come to me saying, "Are you going to go into the men's game?" And no interest in doing that. I enjoy working with the players I work with. I enjoy the connections with people. Go to work and able to manage football and coach football every day. And I like the challenge of the games at the weekend. We had a good tactical battle this weekend where a team we'd played previously had done something completely different. And going back to the Liverpool game, I loved the tactical Beardy on the day changed at half time from back three to back four, completely changed the game, and we had to adapt to that. And I love that. So for me, I'm just proud that I'm in it. I've been in it for 10 years, because there's a lot of managers that aren't able to do that. I've worked along a lot of levels and a lot of different clubs, and I'm happy to have been at Rugby Borough for 3 years. I've just signed a new 3-year deal. So, hopefully, and maybe next time we talk or a couple of years, maybe not 20 years, hopefully, but
yeah,
that the club will be back where it wants to be. But I'm just pleased that I'm sat here now and able to be involved in football.
No, perfect. That's really, really good, mate. Burchie, thanks so much, man. This was class. Like, I know I've not spoken to you for ages, but it was really good to catch up, and it's impressive what you've done, and it's a good conversation. So I appreciate your time.
No, it's fine. It's 10 years worth of work, trying to squeeze it into it. There's so many details, so many bits, but, I always talk about America and where we were and what we did with that year at UK Elite. And I always encourage young coaches rather than players. Like, if you can get a chance to go out and go abroad, whether it is America or anywhere else, just to immerse yourself and meet new people, it's so important. And it's good to see good people doing well and, carving out their own journeys.
Definitely. As structured as that conversation was, I've got some quick fire questions for you just before I finish. So it'll be less structured. First question: one thing from America that you still miss after all this time? Is it that under-21s club?
Yeah, well, it's not that, no. Diners. I love the diner. American diners.
You're a man after my own heart. I was in there yesterday. I was in one yesterday, Burchie. It was excellent.
Yeah.
It was excellent. What are you singing on the karaoke?
It used to be Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire, but last recent one I did that tequila song. It's only got 3 words. It's great. Can't get it wrong.
That is good. You got to dance a bit to that one, so there's a bit of a rhythm involved as well. All right, what are you getting from the chippy?
A fish and chips. I go fish.
Is there anything different because you're in the Midlands, is there anything different about the Midlands to down south? What's the biggest difference about Cov to Southampton?
Don't really notice it in Cov, but we have a few players that are a bit more northern, Wigan based and stuff. And some of the stuff they talk about, there was literally a conversation the other day about, Barnes and all this stuff. I don't know what they were going on. And, you got your peas and your chips and gravy and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. Don't notice it too much in Cov.
Yeah, just, you know what, if you've got a little Wigan firm, just let them go. Let them talk. Let them talk. Which player would you have compared yourself to?
I think it depends. As a goalkeeper, I loved Carlo Cudicini at Chelsea. As a forward, I loved Gianluca Vialli was my hero, and I think he had a bit of everything. So yeah, they were they're my two links with Chelsea. Hazard was unbelievable, and I got to meet him last year, so that was class.
That's a nice touch. All right, last question. Best game you've ever been involved in?
I'm going to go with the cup final we won 2 years ago against Wolves, the County Cup final. We were 3-1 up with 10 minutes to go, and it finished 4-4, and we won on penalties. So it was a crazy game.
That sounds horrible.
It was horrible in the way, but because we won it, I'm sat here happy. But we dominated the game for 75 minutes, and then they got it back to 3-3. We then went up the other end in like the 97th minute, scored 4-3, thought we'd won it, and then from kickoff they put it back and we fumbled it, and then they've scored to go 4-4. But then we won penalties, and we'd done a lot of work on penalties actually, and so the way we won it against a very good Wolves side. So yeah, just to win it in that 4-4 and win on penalties, and again, as you said, it's not about trophies, but when you can get hold of one, it's very hard to do. That was class. It was a good day.
That's fair. All right, Burchie. Listen, thanks again, mate. That was brilliant. Great to see you, and all the best with everything. I'll be keeping an eye on you.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via our socials or visit www.crossingthepondpodcast.com to get in touch. Please be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you can. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Across Pond Podcasting.